that is how you make a podcast.
That is how a podcast is made. Terribly. And without remorse. Speaking of terribly and without remorse, we got to talk about Logan Paul for a moment. I think that's a good jumping off point.
He's really outdone himself this time. Just in the field of depravity.
The wet hair incident. That's what the press are calling it. And there are many questions left in the wake of this. How did Logan Paul source that much wet hair? Why was a portrait of Benito Mussolini involved? Those are the only really two questions about the wet hair incident.
I also think that we need to talk about Logan Paul's cardboard husband.
We really do. I'd forgotten about that one. He crossed a line.
The cardboard husband is deeply involved with a lot of the other horrors.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if you've seen it. When he's parading the cardboard husband around, if you ever see the back side of it... Also, by the way, no one has said it, but the fact that the cardboard cutout is a cardboard cutout of Logan Paul is a little bit conceited on his part. No one else has brought that up. Everyone's just cracking on like it looks like someone else.
Well, yeah, because he drew a mustache with a marker pen.
Now everyone just thinks it looks like Jake Gyllenhaal, who doesn't even have a mustache, but they just listen to anything Logan Paul says.
And, because Logan Paul already has facial hair, he's drawn the mustache over that.
Mm-hmm. Which is interesting, because the mustache is black, and all the, ratty little hair around his, lower jaw is blondish, giving him a sort of reverse Hollywood Hulk Hogan look. Who, of course, had the blonde moustache with the black stubble. It's sort of reversed Hogan it, which some people, also refer to it as the reverse Hogan, which, that reminds me, on the back of the cardboard cutout, you only see it flash up in, a good example is that video he took of, The Ritual. And if you just freeze frame it, on a, I think it's I want to say 3 minutes 13. You can see the back of it and there is black mold on it. There is mold on that.
As far as The Ritual...
Oh, God.
I mean, good on you for scouring over it more than I did. I could only sit through it once. I don't understand how one man could even acquire that much Jell-O in a single afternoon. Mm-hmm, or how he could carry it all himself, because he insisted on removing it from the packaging as soon as he purchased it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's known for that. The man's jelly impatient. Everybody knows it.
It was kind of cool how he recited The Lion King. Word for word. But I heard he had a transmitter up his ass, and Mr. Beast was telegraphing it to him in Morse. That's what that rusty chain was. Because, he called it his prime energy tail. But we all know what that was.
Yeah. No, it was definitely Morse code, which, he's been caught with that before. He doesn't memorize his wrestling matches in the WWE. Triple H is out back, just pressing the button. Do a Falcon Arrow. Beep, 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 beep. He does a Falcon Arrow.
Word on the street, actually, is he only learned English a week or two before he started his podcast. Morse code transmitted through the colon. That's his first language. That explains why he's so far up his own ass all the time.
Speaking of so far up his own ass all the time, I honestly think that he went too far with the Logan Paul chimp fingering hour.
Those were the dark days. I try not to think about them.
Mm-hmm. I will give him this. He's convincing. He's charismatic when it comes to chimps. Although, I also heard that he got them to do it by putting mashed bananas up himself first.
The thing I'm really fixated on, commissioning 52 resplendent Quetzals to eat another man's eyes, that was just overkill.
He's got access to too many things that eat eyes. That's the problem. He gets creatures, and then he comes up with, something to do with them, which is a problem. You have an idea first, and then you get the materials. If you're getting black market creatures from the secret third Pole brother, Clebby Pole, out in the woods, then you're gonna try and come up with reasons to use them, and 9 times out of 10, it ends with eating eyes.
Honestly, Clebby is the real villain behind all this. Logan is just the public face and the pubic face.
Well, I mean, Clebby deserves some blame, but I think Logan, he doesn't have to go along with it.
He's an accessory. Honestly, I think that, both of them and the other one will be standing before a tribunal before year's end.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just glad that they got the title off him at SummerSlam, because I know you've been reading about that in the press, what he's been doing with that.
I really hope that LA Knight, got that belt deep cleaned, because Logan Paul has been fucking it.
He's been fucking the WWE US Championship. What a shock to me is how doing that resulted in 2 deaths, and we still don't know how or why. He shut that inquiry down in between filing lawsuits against CoffeeZilla.
No one man should have all that power.
No. He also shouldn't sell energy drinks to toddlers and indulge himself with crypto scams when he's rich enough already. Or ever.
Yeah.
Those 2 were real.
Yeah.
Oh, everyone. Welcome to the Trashgirl Diaries. This week, I say week as if I'm disciplined enough to do it every week. But this episode, the Logan Paul libel hour, everybody's favourite. That's what that was. The past 5 minutes, not really an hour. So that's false advertising. But then it's libel. We're just making stuff up. And I really, because he's quite litigious, is old Logan Paul. I must stress everything we said, apart from selling porn to toddlers and the crypto scams, is a fabrication for the sake of comedy. He did fuck a belt until 2 people died, though.
Oh yeah, no, he super did.
He used to unscrew the vanity plates that they put on the sides of the title belts with their, wrestler's custom logo. He'd unscrew one at night, and the hole that's in that's where he inserted his Logan. Yeah.
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 God, LA Knight is so charming.
Yeah. Forgive us, listeners. We're talking about World Wrestling Entertainments for a moment, because there is a man called LA Knight, and I like him because he's in his 40s and doing really well, and I'm in my 40s and I'm doing activities, so that's inspiring to me as a decrepit old bitch.
You are not old.
By wrestling standards, I am.
As long as we're talking about the wrestlings, I would just like to extend all my gratitude and appreciation for the new World Heavyweight Champion, Gunther!
The Ring General. Yes, Gunther. He's a German fella.
Austrian fella, sorry. I was lied to by Randy Orton, who said that they're going to his home country of Germany on Monday the Night Raw. I'll tell you one thing I've discovered about myself while we're still on the wrestling segment. I cannot replicate Roman Reigns' entrance music. It doesn't work. It's hard to do. I think that might be the best entrance music ever.
They should sample that, what I just did, and play that, because I think, honestly, no offense to whoever's doing their music now, but I do think what I just did is the best entrance theme ever.
I think you should re-record it, but do it really, really close to the mic.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah.
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 That won't make a mockery. Yeah. Sorry, for the listeners who are really annoyed, yeah is what LA Knight says all the time, like a verbal tick.
It's his catchphrase.
And they're exploiting it to sell merch. That's my headcanon.
LA Like he points to the audience rhythmically, and they go, L.A. Knight. Where has this guy been the whole time?
I used to watch him in the NWA in like 2019. I forget the name he was wrestling under, but that's where I first saw him.
Huh.
He wasn't yelling yeah by that point, but he was very charismatic.
I know he was in TNA for a little while. We can look this up before we talk about something different.
Don't worry, listeners who don't care about wrestling. We will talk about something else. This goes out to the people that put those... I'm going to go on about it again. Those people that put timestamps in the comments of my videos when the video starts with literally a 15-second clip of me doing a spinning wheel kick. Because that was too much to sit through. Then we got Mr. Beast doing paid sponsorships on his videos with a progress bar at the bottom that starts fast so people think it's over quickly and it's not worth their time fast forwarding. And then it slows down. I saw that last night. People aren't having a crack at that. 15 seconds of a wheel kick and I'm not even trying to sell you something. There's no ethics in any media anymore, ever.
Nope.
I mean, mine are tenuous. I just started this podcast with a bunch of lies.
Yeah, but, it's Logan Paul. He deserves it. And honestly, most of it at this point is probably just true anyway.
Probably.
I mean, he did fuck the United States Championship, and he did release it as a sex tape called Coming to America.
Yeah.
He did do that.
Oh, dear.
I watched it.
Still, it was interesting that Vince McMahon was getting work, because I did see him in the credits as executive producer. And then I saw Logan Paul underneath as simply the producer.
Of Seaman.
Come. He was producing Come. That I realised it was too subtle.
I mean, I'm pretty sure Vince McMahon is only credited as executive producer because he threatened to leave an upper decker in Logan Paul's toilet.
And, that's where Logan Paul keeps all his upper deckers, and he doesn't want to mix them up. So, obviously, he will do anything to stop you mixing your shits with his. Mixing the whites with the colours. Which was supposed to be a laundry joke. But, let's face it, if Vince McMahon and Logan Paul are in the same room, they're probably talking about the other thing.
Yeah.
He's a transphobic cunt.
Is Logan Paul racist as well?
I don't know.
Probably.
What I said was for the purposes of comedy, because he's quite litigious, is Logan Paul, and that bit's true. But he is transphobic, and he does sell energy. I'm so sick of seeing Prime everywhere.
Like every time I go to the fucking grocery store. Because I think that he has like a Gatorade knockoff as well.
Is it just called Twat?
No, it's called Prime. It's just in a bottle instead of a can.
Yeah, that's the main stuff that they seem to be flogging, rather than the cans of energy drink and stuff. And I hate that I really like the blue one.
I really like the orange one.
Yeah, I hate that I like some of it. The sports drink ones, the Gatorade ones, they taste of cum. And they're probably his.
Yeah.
There is an actual milky one, like milky coloured one. And I reckon that there is a bit of the Paul Brothers' splaff in it. But I am sick of it, because it's not just him. YouTubers, almost all of them, well, not almost all of them, but no, almost all of them, YouTubers that produce content for kids, flogging these drinks that are not suitable for kids, and the kids don't like them. I know this because I was babysitting a child who was watching YouTube, and he turned round like an automaton and just said, the next time you are shopping, you should get Prime. That's what you should get. Prime. I don't even think he knew what it was. It was genuinely creepy.
Advertising, especially geared at children, it creeps me out. It creeps me out a lot.
And I grew up in the 80s, so I have to concede to some degree that, being in the post-Reagan world, where cartoons really could just flog any old shit, that's been around as long as I've been alive. But At least a Masters of the Universe battle cruiser is something a kid can get some use out of. I've seen kids drinking Prime, and they don't like it. They actually don't like it. They're just getting programmed. And speaking of programs, the stuff being sold to kids when I was a kid, and I realise I'm sounding so fucking old to anyone under the age of 30. But when I was a young whippersnapper, the stuff was on TV, and there were still some regulations. There are still some advertising standards. There are not on YouTube. The shit being...
Yes.
One hopes. You know, I used to have that whole, well, regulation is unfortunate, but if corporations keep pushing it, it will happen and it will be their fault. I think I've just come around the other side to, you know what? Good. Just regulate the shit out of it, because we already know they can't be trusted. And these fucking YouTubers...
I mean, I am all for anything that makes corporate interests and YouTubers less powerful.
Yes, absolutely.
Anything that makes, somebody like Mr. Beast... The thing about Mr. Beast that really upsets me is looking at his face. Because... to me, his features resemble a mere mask of skin over bone and animate evil.
What if he is the Beast? I've not actually seen any of his content. YouTube stopped, trying to foist it on me. I don't know if it's good or not. I am 100% certain I am not the target demo, and I won't get anything out of it, like a kid drinking Prime. But I've heard enough to wonder if the name Mr. Beast is him casually mocking God. Because God doesn't have a YouTube channel, but what if the Beast does?
Brock Lesnar?
What if Mr. Beast is Brock Lesnar? What if Mr. Beast is Brock Lesnar's secret brother, Clebby Beast?
Oh my god, I've got it. Brock Lesnar is the big fleshy man, and Mr. Beast is Krang inside of his... his tummy.
I like that. I approve of that. That's my tummy cannon now. Actually, now my tummy cannon's my dick when I'm spraying my jizz on it. You get it. Oh, we have a laugh on this show.
We do.
Mostly at the expense of the listener. I'm sorry, everyone.
I'm not.
Well, no, and my apology is limited.
You can't see it, but I'm throwing up the double birds right now.
Oh.
And my middle fingers are pointing downwards, so you know I don't care.
Oh, that's gotta hoit. We haven't mentioned video games yet, so I'm mentioning them now, and we can either continue down that road or move on. I'm not really fussed.
I did play a video game for the first time last night.
Oh, I thought you'd played them all your life.
No, this is my first video game ever.
Well, what one was that?
Final Fantasy III.
Final Fantasy?
I know.
That is unusual for the Trashgirl Diaries.
I know.
Hello, by the way, I'm Stephanie Sterling and I'm joined by Elsa Farron. I mentioned the name of the podcast earlier and was gonna follow it up with our names and forgot because I got too excited talking about Logan Paul or whatever it was we were talking about. But that's us. And we do talk about Final Fantasy a fair bit on this podcast. What did you think of 3? That's one I've only played a bit of myself. And even that was just the DS remake.
I've only played a bit of it so far.
Oh, okay.
I'm about 2 hours in, and I have thoughts, but I will keep them to first impressions. A lot of, the typical Final Fantasy stuff happens pretty early in Final Fantasy III. Right away, the game begins and you're in a dungeon. You don't start in a town or even in the overworld. You begin the game in a dungeon.
To be fair, some of my weekends start like that.
Fuck. You begin in a dungeon and you get an airship pretty early on. Within the first hour. And then it is destroyed within half an hour of acquiring it. Because Sid crashes it into a rock in order to break the rock.
That's one way of doing it. There are many other ways I could imagine breaking a rock, but crashing an airship into it will definitely get the job done.
They needed a prow made of mithril in order to do it.
I mean, who doesn't?
I certainly would love to crash my rock into your mithril prow.
Oh, sex. Everyone, if you've just joined us, we're talking about sex.
You know what? I have played a non-Final Fantasy video game. We could talk about that.
Sure.
Since our last episode, I have played 2 video games pertaining to professional wrestling.
Oh, there's a different stroke for the different folks.
I know, right?
Isn't it, though?
Isn't it, though? I have played AEW Fight Forever, which was free on PSN in like June or something, and I played it for a bit.
Yeah, it was, and I didn't pick it up because I was looking at it, but I've also not watched AEW in years, just because it became less convenient, so I forgot to do it for literally years, and then I thought I'd be a bit out of date for it. But I should have picked it up anyway, because presumably it still has Luchasaurus in it.
It does.
Is Serpentico in it?
No.
Oh, fuck that off then. I like Serpentico. He's one of the first wrestlers who followed me on the social medias way back in my Mississippi days.
Aw, that's
yeah, I
sweet.
like Serpentico. We never talk. We bantered a bit online, but I like Serpentico. If he's not in it, then they really can just burn in the sun, the people that made it.
The number of people that aren't in it is kind of weird. Like, you can tell where their priorities are.
Right. Is Jungler Boy in it?
Yeah, he is.
Is Marceau Cunt in it?
No.
Is Tony Storm in it? She's one I know.
She's DLC.
Ugh. How is the game? Sorry, I'm just chatting shit.
Well, you know, it's interesting. AEW Fight Forever is a lot like AEW itself. The stuff that happens between bells, after a bell rings the first time and before it rings the second time, when people are just wrestling each other, everything there is pretty great. The gameplay is actually pretty solid.
What kind of gameplay is it? Because I used to love the old wrestling games, like the SmackDown games, because it had kind of arcadey controls where you'd have like a grapple button and you'd do different directions to do different stuff. But the modern WWE 2K games I can barely play because they went a bit sports simmy with it, and it's all sorts of counters and controls and things.
Well, it's interesting that you say that. AEW Fight Forever does have a very simple control scheme. I think it's like light attack, heavy attack, grapple, basically. And then in combination with different directions, you can do different things.
Okay.
The character creation suite in AEW Fight Forever is awful.
Really?
It's really bad.
That's something people often expect those games to nail, like wrestling games. I used to make myself in the old PlayStation 1 SmackDown games. And I'd call the wrestler Sterling James Stanton, which some listeners will know is my, for all intents and purposes, dead name, I suppose.
Your necronym.
I actually got Sterling from, that was going to be my name if I were wrestling, Sterling James Stanton. And then I was like, no, Sterling is a good surname. I'm just going to have that now. And then I was Jim Sterling for a long while, because I think subconsciously I was rebelling against the identity I was born with. And the only thing I could think of to do with James was turn it into Jim, which I then really didn't care for when the Stephanie bit happened. Pointless fact, utterly pointless biographical fact.
Now I know that. I'm learning this as you are, listeners. And I feel a little closer to you, my friend, as...
I've got a streak of toothpaste running down my dress and it looks like a splaff of jizz.
You know, you say that, but I don't think toothpaste really looks all that much like jizz.
It does when it's dried. I mean, it looks like my cum stains. Because if you look right next to the splaff of toothpaste, there is a splaff of jizz. And they're borderline identical. The jizz is in the shape of Logan Paul.
That's creepy.
Yeah. Oh, wait, no, it just looks like jizz. Sorry, I get them confused.
You get Logan Paul and a jizz stain confused?
Yeah.
Yeah, that tracks.
They look very different, but, mind association. I don't wank off over Logan Paul. I realise that is also where that could have gone. Rest assured, the route I was taking was he is a jizz stain.
Anyway.
Yes.
The gameplay in Fight Forever is quite good. The story mode is terrible. The character creation suite, terrible. The graphics, like, I'm not a graphics girl, but it just does not look good. But thinking of the WWE games being a little too sports simmy, more recently, I've played WWE 2K24, the newest WWE game.
Right.
I don't know at what point this happened, but it doesn't feel like overly simmy to me at all. It feels pretty easy to just pick up. I mean, there's a lot of context-sensitive stuff because it's a wrestling game. So, like, moves will be different whether the opponent's back is facing you or stuff like that.
Sure.
But light attack, heavy attack, grapple. And, like, the actual, like, button you need to press to counter, I think it's just the same button for everything. And it'll actually flash on the screen to, like, let you know when you can do it. And there's, like, a bunch of different, like, little things that happen in the middle of a match. Like, you can do the two wrestlers hitting each other, yay, boo thing, and that's a mini game unto itself, but it's a really easy one. And you don't have to, like, remember anything because it's all very self-apparent. And the character creation is much better. A perfect example of that is that my created character has a finishing move that isn't in AEW Fight Forever. It is a planet cracker. Well, no, not quite, because it's not a sit-out choke bomb. It's just a two-handed choke bomb.
Right.
But yeah, my character's finisher is a two-handed choke bomb. When I saw that was there, I was like, oh, yeah, no, I'm just going to do that. Because why would I not pay homage?
That is my finisher for those listeners who don't care. Commander Sterling does I've dubbed it the Planet Cracker. Technically, it's a sit-out choke bomb. You grab someone with both hands around their neck, lift them up, and then jump down into a seated position while slamming them forward in front of you. And then when their legs are up, you can grab them and pin them like I do every time I hit it.
And no one kicks out.
No one kicks out. That would be ridiculous. I've had the PCW women's title for over 500 days for a reason.
Jesus Christ.
Right?
You're like a regular Gunter.
I am the Gunter of Preston.
The Gunter of Preston.
Preston and the Greater Blackpool area.
I'll say the same thing to you that I would love to say to Gunter. I will pay you 4 figures to chop me in the tits.
Oh, absolutely. 510 days, if we're counting, which I am.
I'm just picturing you, like, caressing the belt. Like Logan Paul during foreplay. As 2K24 was installing, I played, like, just a basic singles match. Before it's fully installed, you can just play a basic match to get a feel for it, with a bunch of wrestlers of different classes available to try out. And one of them was Asuka, so obviously I picked Asuka.
Obviously.
Yeah, I just played a regular match, Asuka versus Io Sky. And I don't know if it's still on sale on PSN, but if it is, it's half off. And I don't know. I think it's all right. And it's also just very funny seeing the wrestlers that are in AEW Fight Forever and WWE 2K24, which came out less than a year later. The 3 big ones are Jade Cargill, Cody Rhodes, and CM Punk.
Oh dear.
Yeah. It's funny how CM Punk used to be on the cover of AEW Fight Forever, and then he did what I've always wanted to do, and beat the crap out of the Young Bucks. But lest we dive further into a wrestling hole, have you played a video game recently?
I started at the time of recording. It's Friday today. I started playing Creatures of Ava, I think it is. Creatures of Ava, because it's on Game Pass.
I heard Ava, and it just made me think of the Dark Souls boss.
No. AVA. It's an interesting game. I'm not sure exactly how much longevity its gameplay loop has. but basically you're on this alien planet and there's the obligatory infection. I'm so sick of it. I'm so sick of the corruption TM as the antagonistic force
The
in
blight.
50% of all games these days. But there's the infection, and the animals are infected, and you're there to rescue them. And there's a couple interesting things, like the way you fight infected animals is you've got a magic stick, and that sucks the infection off them. And you've got to keep that trained on them, almost like a Ghostbuster shooty laser. Then eventually that wipes that away when a little bar goes down. And the other thing you do is you rescue the animals, getting them off planet by playing a flute. And then there's a little Simon kind of thing where they'll sing at you, the animal, and then you move the stick in the right sort of like the piano thing in Final Fantasy Rebirth. And just as annoying,
Ugh.
not as punishing, but certainly on the Xbox One, like those sticks are not made for this. But once you do that, they will follow you, and like the Pied Piper, you lead them to these little pickup points to pick them up and save them. So it's an interesting little conservationist thing. You've also got a camera, you take photos of them, which gives it a little bit of a Metroidy vibe. And you can also not possess them, they kind of present it as you just seeing through their eyes or something, even though you just get one-to-one control of them. But when you've tamed an animal and you're playing your little fluty stick, you can take control of them and make them run around. And each one will have like a set of little actions, and that'll help you solve some environmental puzzles. Like, there might be a bridge held up by some weird gum thing, and if you have this little tiny dinosaur-looking fella, you can run up to that and just snap at it and break it, and then you've got a bridge you can cross. Or there are these little ones that burrow underground, and there are little sort of things buried in the ground, and you can send the little mole bug thing over to it, and then when you pop out the ground, it'll expose the thing that's hidden. That's the sort of overall thrust of the experience. And it's been nice enough in a sort of very laid-back way, at least outside of combat, which is, the combat's fine, but it can be a bit annoying with animals charging at you from off-screen and stuff. But it's cute. The animal designs are nice, like weird little alien horses and things.
Ooh.
I don't know if, like, 5 hours from now I'm gonna be as engrossed in there is an animal, I'm gonna play Simon, and then I'm gonna lead it to a pickup area.
That does seem kind of limited as a gameplay loop.
Yeah. And I don't know, it's early goings, they might open it up some, and they might do more involved things with the animal controlling. So we will see. But right now, it's nice enough. I'm not having a terrible time with it.
Alrighty then.
Yeah.
I have one more that I could talk about.
Oh, please do.
I have been playing The Magical Adventures of Logan Paul and His Cardboard Husband.
Oh, God, I forgot that came out this week.
I know, right?
As did he.
Nah, see, I pre-ordered it. Day one. I knew that
Right.
was going to be an experience of a fucking lifetime.
I pre-cummed it.
So you just smeared your girl dick all over the box?
Yeah.
Got it all greased up?
Yeah.
Jesus fucking...
Quite why they let me do that at Best Buy, I do not know. But they all just stood and watched. A couple even clapped.
What are they going to do? Stop you? No, you're doing a public service.
Well, that is true. Or a pubic service if you look at the beard on his face.
For real. Or the hair on his head.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
No, I do have another one I could talk about. So I've been playing Final Fantasy XI as well as 3.
That's an MMO, isn't it?
It is. It is one of 2
Yeah.
Final Fantasy MMOs, the other being 14. You know how most Final Fantasy games are weird?
Mm-hmm.
Fuck me. Final Fantasy XI is weird.
Yeah. It's one I've just never picked up.
It's weird, it's obtuse, it's cryptic. But it's also really absorbing. There is something about it. You don't have to make the same trip more than once very often. So making that trip can be sort of meditative. Going for the first time from one of the big cities to another that in itself can be calming as you take in all of the different environments and listen to very, very good music. The combat doesn't get engrossing for quite some time. It's also very difficult in a lot of ways, just on the grounds that, like, a lot of the things that you see out and about will kill you. They will kill you.
Yeah.
It is antiquated and a bit stodgy, because it's a pre-World of Warcraft MMO. So I guess if you're ever in the mood for an MMO that moves at a glacial pace, Final Fantasy XI. They still charge by the month.
Nah, they're all right.
Yeah, I figured.
Yeah, I'm okay for that.
Yeah, I figured
Don't
you'd
need
probably
that.
be fine.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I don't have more to say about it. I'm just not super far in it right now.
Yeah.
It does have the most involved chocobo raising. Like, you can hatch a chocobo and, like, tend to it and care for it, and the specific activities that you do to bond with your chocobo will also change its stats, which make it either faster when you ride it or better at chocobo hot and cold.
Right. You don't ever do to it what Logan Paul did with that ostrich he adopted, right?
No one should ever do that, and I'm horrified that a human being even conceived of it.
I'll give him credit where it's due. It was a smart way to win those cockfights.
I guess.
Just stamped on him.
When asked about it, the people organizing the cockfights said that it violated the spirit of the game, but not the actual rules.
Yeah.
Make some new fucking rules, man. Why are you doing this to us?
Like, if you know Logan Paul's, like, getting involved, you need to do everything you can to make sure that the rules are violated along with the spirit. Like, that is tacit. Because he's gone his whole life violating the spirit of everything while technically not breaking the law that we know about.
That's to say nothing of what he does in every Spirit Halloween in America.
Mm-hmm.
Every single one. He's somehow in all of them. And I don't even want to think about what he's done to the face paint.
No. His special oils and unguents. That's another thing. Like, I know that we've talked about Logan Paul a lot on this episode, but we haven't even touched the unguents. And I recommend no one does.
Yeah, don't do that.
His potions are so.
Sorry, it's just... Do you remember that little girl in Final Fantasy XVI who's walking down the street going, calmatives, curatives, restoratives,
yes.
unguents, ointments, poultices?
Yep.
I was playing it with one of my partners at the time there to sort of watch me, and we had this running joke that was the character's name. Her name was calmatives, curatives, restoratives, unguents, ointments, poultices. And so now I hear unguents, and because I've very rarely heard unguent in any other context, it's one of those words that you only really hear in video games, is unguent.
I either hear them in video games, or I see it used the way I use it, which is, it sounds funny.
I mean, it did until Logan Paul happened to it. Logan Paul's Diabolic Unguent, now available in every Spirit Halloween, whether you want to or not. And Pier 1 imports. I didn't know that still existed, but I went in one the other day. It's unguents all the way down.
All the way down. I've been distracted.
Hmm?
Since I look up on a website called Cage Match to get the exact length of my PCW women's title reign, and I was reminded again of the review that someone left that's just a big lie, that's just libel. They've got a passion for that profession, but the actual in-ring quality is relatively poor, which if you want to say that, that's fine. I don't care about that bit. But then it goes on to, there's been a few occasions where people have been hurt by said wrestler, which for me is probably the worst thing a wrestler can do. It's fine to be bad, terrible even, if you are in a state where you are relatively safe or can be carried to something decent by an experienced opponent. Thank you, I am. I'm generally okay with that. The issue is being unsafe, which in a sport like wrestling can be a serious issue, and even the most basic move can result in major internal and external injuries, and that's even when performed properly. I have never hurt anyone.
No, you haven't.
That is, like, just a lie. Sorry, it really annoys me when I see
No,
it.
I'm reading it now, and you're absolutely right.
I've publicly blasted it as a lie. It's fat phobia. Like, that's honestly what it is, because that's what people say about every fat wrestler, is that they're dangerous. I've hurt myself, but I've never hurt anyone else. The closest I ever got to hurting someone was my very first match in the UK, where I wrestled Zio Knox, and he said to me after that when I hook the leg for a pin, be careful where I put my elbow and don't crush someone's bollocks. That's it. Any other time where I thought I might have hurt someone, because, you always check to make sure everything was okay. And there are times when I'm like, I'm so sorry, I think I, punched you in the face. And they're like, I didn't feel anything. So, yeah. Never injured anyone. Never hurt anyone. My moveset is designed to be as safe as possible because I don't trust myself, with anything too risky. If you actually watch me perform, you'll see that every move I do is either one that gives the opponent a lot of control in how they land, or looks a lot worse than it is.
I feel like they need to, vet these things.
They really should. People do check this website out. They're right on one thing. Being unsafe is one of the worst things you can do. It's why I am safe. It's why I go out of my way to be safe. I don't care if you don't like my wrestling. I don't think I'm a great wrestler. I think I'm a very fucking entertaining one, but I don't think I'm all that good of a capital W wrestler. And that's fine. I review games for a living. If you want to slag me off, then that's me dying by the sword I live by. I'm all for that. But don't lie. Because otherwise, you're telling me you can't make a good critical point.
So, if I was ever forced at gunpoint, to, say something critical of your wrestling matches, I guess I would say the pace is sometimes a bit slow, but that's not even a bad thing. If being slow was such a condemnation, then Triple H.
Yeah.
All of Triple H's matches, especially the ones at WrestleMania, where he takes a million goddamn years.
That is actually an interesting criticism, because I've often been told that I rush through things. So that is interesting.
I can only say that as a viewer. You're less like a big moves type of wrestler. You're at your best when you're talking shit. And every move, as a result, every move that you do feels momentous because there's gaps between them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's something I learned in the past year, because I used to have a big chip on my shoulder about I'm not doing enough big moves. I'm not doing big, impressive things. And then I realized that I get a bigger reaction than any of the impressive stuff I do. I would say the biggest pop I generally get is either for the belly-to-belly suplex or the wheel kick. And I get an equal reaction just punching someone in the stomach. Because that just looks like it's gonna fucking hurt. And the crowd always goes, ooh. Same as when I take my glove off and chop people with it.
Also, everything I just said about you wrestling is also a pretty adequate descriptor of The Rock. The Rock's matches are also pretty slow-paced.
In a way, I am the new Rock.
In a way.
In a way, I'm exactly like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, except being an awful Republican prick.
Is he?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that about him.
Oh, the guy's gone totally fucking detached now.
The only time I ever saw him say anything political was when he endorsed Biden in 2020.
Right, I'm gonna check this. I don't think he's as litigious as Logan Paul. But I know he's certainly been going full bootstraps and shit.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
6th of April, is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson turning to the right? The wrestler turned actor and entrepreneur turned his back on President Biden and attacked woke culture in a Fox News interview. Oh, he is a cunt.
Oh, wow.
If he's going
woke,
on the...
woke culture. Oh, Jesus. My stomach just sank.
Yeah. Weird, you join the WWE board of directors and you become a right-wing asshole. Anyway.
Sorry, you said asshole and now I'm just thinking of Angela White.
Oh, I've heard of her.
Yeah.
Logan Paul hasn't.
Or at least he claims not to. He claims to not know of any pornography that he himself has not made. With various rare objects.
Mm.
You know, I mean, I thought it was bad enough when he infiltrated the British Museum, Mission Impossible style, and fucked the Benin bronzes.
Yeah, that one was rough. I did like the one where he laid a Fabergé egg. In both senses. Because he did fuck one, and he also popped one out of his ass that he slid up there earlier as a cheeky surprise for everyone.
He's nothing if not a showman.
Yeah, I mean, again, devil getting its due. He paints a pretty picture when he dilates.
I know that Logan Paul harder than Stonehenge, and I can prove it, now watch me fuck these big rocks, has its detractors. But honestly, I think it's a tour de force. Logan Paul is the new Angela White.
Listeners aren't going to agree, but this is one of the best podcasts I've ever done.
I mean, this is probably the best podcast I've ever done.
It's the best podcast that's ever been done.
Yes.
The Rock couldn't do a better one.
Angela White couldn't do a better one.
Logan Paul couldn't do a better one, but that's because something also with his dick, I don't know. I didn't have anything at the end of that rainbow.
Say nothing of the time he tried to fuck a rainbow.
Yeah, that was frustrating for him, just sort of running after it with his dick in his hand and his pants round his ankles, screaming that it keeps running away from him. While Clebby's in the background, just run faster.
In his Y-fronts. And he's just sort of rubbing on his crotch while wearing a t-shirt that says Daddy's Little Monster.
Oh, in a way though, aren't we all? Aren't we all trying to fuck a rainbow? In a way.
In a way, I think that The Walking Dead refers to the fucking zombies. It's about zombies.
That is a point. That is an interesting philosophical stance.
At first I thought it might be the people, but then I read a letter that was written to the writer of The Walking Dead by one Jonathan Holmes. And no, it's about the fucking zombies.
It's about the zombies. In a way.
In a way. We're all under the thumb of pigs.
All of us, all day long. God, do you remember when Logan Paul thumbed a pig?
I mean, I try not to think about it because that pig had been dead for a really long time.
Yeah. He borrowed that one from David Cameron.
Fuck!
Anyway, my spine is screaming at me for having sat up for an hour.
Oh my gosh.
That's where I'm at these days. It depends on the seating, but sitting up at the office desk is a nightmare. About 30 minutes in, I started streaming again at Twitch TV/Jim Sterling, by the way. And, I try and go on that for like somewhere between 2 and 4 hours. And it is really painful. Fun, I enjoy it. I love streaming, but god damn. I mean, I say that it's been particularly bad today. And I'm not taking painkillers at the moment because my ADHD meds are working. So I'm trying to be less dependent on them.
Well, thank you for taking the time.
Of course.
I'm sure the listeners are very grateful for this expose of all of the things that everybody already knows Logan Paul to have done.
Well, someone had to say it. Someone had to say what we all knew.
Yes, you are the new Jim Brewer.
Yep. I was reminded of Jim Brewer the other day.
Oh, yeah?
For those who don't know, Jim Brewer is he used to be called the Goat. He did a character called the Goat Boy or something like decades ago. He's gone into a full right-wing comic. Just to give you an idea of how right-wing he is, he's got a show called Someone Had to Say It.
Yeah.
And the sum total of all of his jokes is taking the piss out of people who aren't right-wing with stupid voices. Not even jokes. I've watched him for 10 whole minutes waddle around on a stage, pretending to be a cockatiel, going, wear a mask, Dr. Fauci, trust the science, blah, blah, blah. And that's literally the act. That was his response to the COVID epidemic.
It wasn't quite as good of a piece of entertainment as Logan Paul puts the cock in cockatiel, was it?
No. I mean, he had a real cockatiel. Jim Brewer just pretended to be one. Although it was interesting that Jim Brewer was in that video dressed as a cockatiel.
And there was a real cockatiel in the background, but it was just chilling.
Yeah.
Logan Paul had somehow painted his penis to look exactly like a cockatiel, and he got it to whistle. That man can whistle with his dick.
He truly is one of America's top talents.
And a prick.
Yeah. And a prick.